Okay, well, thank you, Andy, for the introduction, and hello to everybody on the line. First of all, I want to thank Andy and Wendy for organizing this, and to all of you for being here. I hope that this session is insightful and interesting. I generally like my sessions to be interactive as well, so there will be space for questions. But yes, I'm quite excited to be here. I live in London. I'm from Argentina, so for me, it's a very international experience. Fintech is a subject that I like a lot, and that is quite a buzzword right now. Right now, you're seeing a slide that has quite a lot of chaos, I would call. And what I found is that in order to understand this chaos, you need to look at the big trends and the big categories that compose fintech in order to be able to follow it, in order to be able to understand it, and in order to be able to profit. I've written a book on fintech, which is on the market, and you could see like a photo of it on the previous slide, which is basically how can we actually get simple people to understand fintech quickly. And that is my objective. So today, rather than a mess like the slide I was currently showing, I want to make it very easy for you. I could talk about fintech for a full day or even more. Sometimes I do courses which are 2 days long, but today we're going to try to compress everything into this time that we got, which is a bit less than an hour. So first of all, I will talk about the current market status. I want to put a highlight onto what's happened in 2017 and what's coming for 2018. Enabling technologies. So basically, I'm going to talk about which are the key technologies that are actually making fintech disruptive, and what's new. What are the new technologies that are changing fintech? And 3 fintech categories. So we were looking at quite a messy picture on the previous slide about different things: commercial banking, asset wealth management, retail banking, onboarding, VC capital. So how can we organize those into easy to understand categories and look at what's happening in each of these areas? So without any further ado, I will get started. So looking at the market status, 2017 has been a great year for fintech. You can see here that from 2012 to 2017, it's been increasing quite a lot, the investment into fintech companies. So when we talk about fintech companies, we're talking about privately traded companies which are in a startup phase. So you can see that 2017 was a record year. The numbers that you're seeing there are in billions. So last year we had 16.6 billion. Highlights in Europe, US, it decreased a little bit. And the line shows you the amount of deals. So you can see that in 2017, there were 1,128 reported deals in terms of this is companies or private investors investing into these startups. So it's increasing, and in 2018, it's likely to keep going in this direction. However, when we look at the numbers a bit more closely, we can see that in 2017, early stage, this would be a Series A, investment has actually decreased by 23%, and we're looking at growing companies. So there's more than 5,000 fintech companies, and we're looking that investors are choosing the right companies, the ones that have the best chances. And we can see that the top 35 deals, total of 7.5 billion. So back to the previous slide, if you look at a total of 16.6 billion, we're talking about half of the investment is going to big companies. Yeah, so 35 deals out of 1,128 went to just a few companies, just to get them to a very high level of growth. What is excluded from this information is IPOs. We had a few IPOs in 2017, and there's yet more to come in 2018. This slide, I wanted to show you, give you an idea about the the size of these companies. So there's some unicorns, so big companies which have a valuation of more than 1 billion, and these are spread around the world with a high concentration in the US, a few in Europe, and then 5 in Asia. In Asia, what's happening in 2017 is that there were a few IPOs. So when a company becomes public, they stop being a unicorn, because a unicorn is, by definition, a private company. So we can see that there's a tendency for companies to start IPOs. And what we've seen in 2017 is that there are 8 newcomers to this club. Yeah, so it's 8 companies that in 2017 have reached the valuation of 1 billion. Some of them you will know. Most of them are in the US. I marked them in red. You might have heard of probably Coinbase is in the mouth of everybody right now. It's an exchange for crypto funds. So you might know some of the others, but companies basically in lending, in consumer finance, in different categories. So that's a very brief introduction to where the market is going. The market is hot right now. Many people looking at investing, and it's likely to continue this way in 2018. And following that, I wanted to talk briefly about the enabling technologies. For me, it's really important to know what are the technologies that are making fintech grow and change in a disruptive way. These are the ones that I have highlighted, and we will look at each of them briefly. Cybersecurity, for me, it's quite a hygiene factor. So how can we be trading if there's no security? And what we've seen is that crime has gone quite a long way, transferring from offline to online. It's more profitable and it's less riskier. So governments have less weapons to fight cybercrime. However, cybersecurity, this category, is growing quite a lot. There's been a lot of investment in 2017. And what we can expect is that 2018 will bring a lot of movement inside of banks. I work in a bank, and we evaluate providers all the time. I think one of the things that we really need is consolidation of the offering. Because if you can look at the different categories that I'm listing there, there's market leaders in each of these 8, 9 categories. So what we need is a solution that can cover many things at the same time. So if you need to protect your network, but then you have devices, so you need a solution for the Internet of Things, and then for mobile, and then for cloud computing, and then for identity management. It's quite crucial that we find a provider that can deal with all of these things at the same time. So that's what I think will start happening in this particular industry. We're going to start to see more mergers, more acquisitions. We can see the big players such as Cisco, such as Salesforce, such as Microsoft, which will be looking at buying into this category so that they can provide a solution which is attractive to the big corporates. Next is artificial intelligence. I wanted to show you a little bit of a Venn diagram that shows a bit of the complexity of artificial intelligence. Many people look at it as a buzzword, but it's actually quite a combination of different things. I group together big data with artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is all about making computers clever and helping us make better decisions that we can do on our own, and better decisions that we could do with an Excel sheet and a piece of analysis. So for me, artificial intelligence is being used quite a lot in banks nowadays, and it will be increasingly used quite a lot. So we need to watch the space for this area. It's really important that banks invest in this area. When we look at the providers of artificial intelligence, there might be many. I think we really need to watch out the space for Amazon. Amazon is delivering different financial products in different areas. So insurance in Europe, credit, lending in the US. It's also starting some different products in Asia. So Amazon, they have their own little empire in the sense of e-commerce, and they are aiming to link up their e-commerce with their own solution for payment. So we could expect to see an Amazon bank, not in 2018, but maybe towards 2020. And they have the best solutions regarding artificial intelligence. Everybody knows about Alexa now. So combining your lifestyle with your shopping, that's all done through artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is the second trend. Next one is blockchain. I usually use this slide. Who thinks blockchain is the future of banking? Everybody raising their hand. And then who can explain what blockchain is? And actually nobody really can. Many people look at it as something specific to financial services, a blockchain, but actually it's something that can reach all industries. I've listed here about 30 categories which are affected by blockchain, and we could do a full workshop around blockchain. So I will be brief today. What I can say is that if you want to understand a blockchain in very simple terms, this is a giant open ledger that allows things of value to be stored or transferred between individuals anonymously and with total trust. I think that combination of open, it's a database that is open, and you can trust is the key things. And the word that is used quite a lot of times is decentralized. So instead of having a central body controlling data, information, and profiting out of it, if we can create a model which is intelligent enough to maintain itself, then this is decentralized and it's more efficient, so that you don't have to have an intermediary to do your transaction. 2017 was a huge year for blockchain. There's been quite a lot of investment. In the technology, the specific blockchain technology companies, there's been about 2.6 billion investment. However, in ICOs, which is initial coin offerings, which we will look at it a bit later, there's been an added 5.4 billion, which gives us a total of nearly 10 billion. So 7.5 billion. Well, not really. So 8 billion. So 2018 promises to grow the popularity of exchanges, so people that want to buy crypto coins. There's many new opportunities. Square Cash has launched in 2017. Crypto, Revolut, which is a European provider, is also launching that. So we are seeing that people like a common Joe can go and buy some Bitcoin, some Ethereum if they want to. And this will generally make the currency more useful and also raise the price for the currency for whomever has invested in that. We can see that Coinbase is looking to work with larger investors. And we're seeing that a lot of companies that were initially focused on payments, they're moving on to crypto investment as they are seeing that it's not so mature, the industry is still to transact. This is mainly because there's a lot of volatility in place. Next, RegTech. I'm sure that some of the people on this call will be interested in this category. I think in order to make this very simple to understand why is RegTech important is because about 25% of the people that work in large banks, they work in compliance. So this can be quite inefficient, having such a big body of compliance. So the question that RegTech is trying to answer is, how could we make a system efficient enough in order to cater for all of this compliance that is coming in? So there's two things. One is BAU, so normal procedures that need to be done on transactions, on onboarding, etc., but also on the new regulation that's coming. Every year there's new regulation coming out globally, and this is not likely to change. So maybe one president in the US, they decide that certain regulation is right, but then you get Donald Trump that thinks otherwise, and then he will change it again. So there will always be changes. And RegTech is trying to be dynamic so that whenever you need to change a regulation, you can just change some parameters on a system, and then it will be easy to comply with the new regulation. Trends for 2018, I expect to see more investment. So far, we're looking at nearly 2 billion invested, but this will be expanded. Generally, the companies that are working in RegTech are very niche and small, so some consolidation in this industry will be started in this year. Finally, the Internet of Things. This is about having your devices connected, having your fridge ordering some milk and paying for it, or having your self-driven car going into the gas station and getting petrol on its own. It's a bit early, but this is an important technology to look at. In 2018, there will be more investment into projects around cryptocurrency, and one of them is IOTA, which I think will increase in value quite a lot. And that's the end of that section. So section 2 around the embedded technologies that will help fintech grow in the future. Now we're going to move into fintech categories. So the following are my chosen 7 categories, and we'll start with challenger banking. Challenger banking is about banking. For many years, we've seen a standard model of a bank, which is branches. You get a card, you get a current account or a checking account, how you call it in the US. And there's not much to it. People have been introducing mobile apps. However, it's not disruptive. So what will actually be disruptive is a question that a lot of people are asking themselves. And my take is that open banking will make banking disruptive. And when I say disruptive, I mean it will connect banking to the rest of the world. So you will be able to connect it to your electricity bill. And for example, you will be able to know, should I change my utility provider? At the same time, your accountancy firm will be able to take information out of your bank and allow you to do your accountancy straight from the software. So there's a lot of use cases of combining data from your banking with the rest of your life. So many companies have already started this journey. I really like an app called Monzo, which is available in the UK, which allows you to see exactly where each of your transactions happen. It's very easy to search through your bank statement. So you can see, for example, when you paid a friend, very easily just by searching on your bank the name of your friend. So that's one type of example, like an expanded user interface. The other example that I've used is N26, which is a German bank that they are an aggregator. And basically what they do is they go around shopping for the best products, and they put all of the best products from different providers together. And this benefits the customer because they will get the best of all worlds. So in 2018, what we can expect is open banking to start showing us what it can do. In Europe, there's 2 regulations which are affecting open banking. One is CMA, and the other, which is the UK regulation, and PSD2, which is the European regulation. And between the two of these, they've made it compulsory for banks to share their data. And this is the year where we will start to see how this data is going to be. Now, following that, payments and remittances. This is quite a huge category, and it's been disrupted quite a lot already. And this is about sending money in different ways, and basically how to make payments cheaper and how to increase financial inclusion as well. So a good example of a company, one of the unicorns I mentioned before, is TransferWise. TransferWise, they can do P2P payments internationally. So instead of having to send money through a financial network, you can actually send it peer-to-peer. So if somebody, let's say in Spain, wants some dollars and somebody in the US wants some euro, they don't need to go through the whole international system, which requires clearing and which will require paying a lot of commission. You can just use TransferWise, which is a marketplace for currency, and they will clear it out faster than actually the actual network. So that's an example of how we can innovate in payments. The other one that I put there is M-Pesa, which is actually a company which is part of Vodafone. And it's how to use your phone as a bank account. So with a very simple phone, I'm not even talking of a smartphone, just picture yourself the old Nokia phones, which were very popular. People in Africa can use that as their current account and make payments and receive money as well. This has actually helped a lot in the developing world in order to increase GDP. And it's the kind of thing that needs to be expanded, and we can see more of that in 2018. Another thing that we will see in 2018 is how these biggest players in payments are expanding globally. Alipay is a company that has been very aggressive in the middle of 2017. It's a Chinese company, and their objective is to take over the world, starting through Southeast Asia, but also US is one of their targets, and they've tried to acquire a very big player. However, they haven't been able to yet because of concerns around Alipay getting too big. So payments and remittances is quite a fascinating story. Lending, it's on the mouth of everyone. Basically, with interest rates being so low and investments not moving quite a lot in 2017, many of the big banks have been looking at why don't we get into the lending market? And we've seen Marcus being founded and achieving quite a lot of lending. So the lending category is about how can we make this process more efficient. And when you look at the lending process, there is one category which is quite big, which is the peer-to-peer. There's quite a lot of money borrowed in this category, and this is in the trillions of dollars. And what a peer-to-peer market does is it allows individual investors meet individual people that want a loan, and everybody gets a higher interest rate just because there's no bank in between. So far, the model hasn't been tested fully because since the first peer-to-peer lending models, which started after 2008, we haven't seen a very big increase in interest rates. So there are concerns that when interest rates go up, there will be problems with this lending. But so far, it's been okay. There's more regulation needed in that area, and slowly we're getting more regulation into P2P marketplaces. The other big area, which I think is really important in lending for you to know, is credit scoring. So for the people which are unbanked or for the people which don't have a very big credit history or FICO score, as we call it in the US, it's very difficult to get lending. However, during 2017, it's been proved that alternative ways of measuring credit score can work. One of the biggest experiments has been in China, where there's a database that contains billions of records, and they've noticed that using different data points such as social network points and other sources like government sources, they can actually create quite a good credit scoring system, which can include a lot more people. So I think in 2018, what we can experience is banks in many different countries partnering with fintech companies in order to lend money to more people. It will help everybody. It will help the bottom line of the bank, but it will also help the people that are not so lucky with their credit scores. Following category is commerce. Commerce is about purchasing stuff in a more efficient way. So what we can expect when we look at the long term is payments to be almost free, so free of commissions for intermediaries, and for the intermediaries to focus more on the data and the value added which is in the data. I put in a couple of examples of companies which are doing really well in this category. One of them is Square. Some of you may know it. It's from the same founder as Twitter. And then what they have created is this little dongle which you can put on your iPhone, and you can accept payments with it. You can either do a contactless payment, a pin and chip payment, and also a magnetic card payment. And it enables markets and people which are in the move to quickly accept payments, and it's been really successful for the SME market. Square has actually become a public company. The other one is Stripe, which is worth about $9 billion. And this is a company that does payments online. Their key strength is that they can do payments very simple. So you can incorporate their payment systems in just a few minutes if you're a merchant. And what they're trying to do is to minimize the cost for acquirers. But a very high percentage of the payments of the US e-commerce goes through Stripe network. I was quite surprised when I read that around 50% of all payments in the US e-commerce system go through Stripe. What we're seeing in 2018 is merchants wanting to reduce as much as they can their transaction costs. There's recently been an announcement from eBay, which have said that they are changing from PayPal onto Adyen, which is a company founded in Amsterdam. And this was quite surprising because eBay and PayPal used to be the same company until PayPal was spun off. So it's quite a bold move, but it's just showing that e-commerce companies, they are looking for the margin everywhere. And if they can improve it, then they will. And the other thing that we're starting to see is more artificial intelligence being pushed onto every e-commerce platform. So far, we've seen how good Amazon can be at making suggestions, but now we're seeing artificial intelligence as a service, which means that everybody can get the type of software that Amazon uses and make the most out of it in benefit of the customer. Following categories, InsurTech. Insurance is quite a big industry. 8 billion have been invested into these type of companies since 2012, and a lot more will come in. So a full session would be needed to talk about insurance properly. But the main things that we're seeing in this category are peer-to-peer insurance setup. So this is instead of you buying your own premium, your own policy on your own, you will buy it as a part of a group, and then that group will have a certain profile of risk, which will be more favorable for you than if you were purchasing your insurance out there in the market. Smart contracts, this is about claim fulfillment. So how can we fulfill a claim quickly? How could we fulfill a claim without even having to claim? That would be the ideal. So let's suppose that I'm going to take a flight. I have insurance on flight coverage, and my flight gets canceled. Do I even need to claim when the insurance company should know that this flight has been canceled because they can access that information? So that's what we're trying to achieve. In 2018, what we can expect is efforts on the back office to be focused. So we're looking at reductions in headcount in the back office, and then increases in efficiency. So a decrease in the amount of time that it takes from the moment that you make a claim to the moment where you get paid. And Lemonade, they set a record in 2017 of having the fastest claim completion in the world, and it took less than a minute. I can't remember how many seconds it was, but it was very, very quick. And that should be the standard. Wealth management, this is about how we can manage our money. In the past, we've seen that only the richest people could actually get access to certain type of products in order to invest. Fintech companies, they bring efficiencies which will allow everybody to be able to invest. Even if you have a few dollars, you can invest them into the market. So one of the biggest categories is robo-advisory, which is how can we use a system to advise us on where to put our money, where to put our pension, how to pay less tax. Obviously, you can pay for a professional to do this, but can a system help us? And the answer has been yes, a system can help us, and it can not only help us, but it can also help advisors. So the trend that we're seeing is that the optimum solution is not to just have a robo-advisor, is to have a hybrid between robo-advisory and face-to-face advisory. Other solutions which are being explored are around micro-investment. This is how can we invest very little small amounts of money, which at the end of the day end up mounting up to a good amount of money. And investment tools is a category for actually fund managers. How can they get better information and better insights in order to generate better alpha? In terms of the what will happen in 2018, we're seeing a lot of money going into Asia. And this is because China is a huge market, but they're not very developed in the sense of investing. What we've seen is Chinese people spending a lot in just consuming products, retail products, but now they want to invest their money, and there's a lot of companies that are setting themselves up in order to be able to invest throughout the world, so that they can not only reach China, but the whole of the world. The other thing that we're seeing is banks which have relied a lot on fintech companies to start with, for example, with robo-advisors. They've started to create their own solutions. And it seems like this will keep on going in 2018. So less partnerships and more internal development for big banks. And then finally, this is my last category, crowdfunding. And this is about how do you raise money? Quite a big thing for many companies. And what fintech brings is crowdfunding and crowd investing websites. This is the most popular website is called Kickstarter. You might have given some money in that network. So this is about pulling a project together and asking for money out of the public. It's been quite effective. What's been really, really effective in 2017 is what's called an ICO. This is fundraising, but for a blockchain-related project. I wanted to show you a little graph of what happened in 2017. There's been quite a lot of money invested into projects. Some of them really good opportunities, others a bit questionable, but there's a lot of money flying around in VC, and a lot of money has gone into initial coin offerings. What we will see in 2018 is more regulation. Many countries have banned ICOs just because there's a lot of fraudsters that are just trying to make the most of the lack of regulation and trying to trick customers. So my recommendation for this area, having invested in a few of these companies and also being an advisor for some of the startups in this area, is to do your homework. Don't rush into buying anything that you don't really understand. So if you will invest, make sure that you understand the industry and that your money will be secured in a good way. It's still an exciting area, and it offers an enormous potential for growing your money if you have some to risk. So I think I've covered everything I wanted, and now I'm gonna switch back on to Wendy for questions.
Yes, we do have some questions. First question, what about Canada? Any new fintech?
Yeah, Canada has got its own flourishing industry. There's a lot of connections with the US in Canada, but the last report that I've seen is investment hasn't reached $1 billion, I think, so far since 2012. But there's quite a few companies that are offering fintech services. I think the opportunity for Canada is being so close to the US. Yes, so you got not only the Canadian market, but also an opportunity to jump into the US.
The next question, the advanced credit scoring, is it for retail or non-retail portfolios?
So I would say that this is for both. So the quick gain will be the retail market because there's millions or even billions of customers that can be credit scored. But when you look at the business market, and when I'm talking about the business market, this is actually the SME market. You will need to do credit scoring of both the individuals, but also of the business itself. So let's say, for example, that you're selling your products on Amazon or you're selling your products on eBay. You haven't really developed a credit score outside of that network. So utilizing your data from these sources, which is what companies such as Cabbage do or OnDeck do, it's invaluable because you can actually lend money properly, and everybody's jumping onto this opportunity. You can see Square, company that I mentioned before, doing it, and you can also see companies such as PayPal doing it. So it's proving to be really successful.
Do you think that fintechs, e.g. TransferWise, will be replacing traditional banks in some areas, currency exchanges, or is there a chance that banks will adapt to the new business model?
So this is a great question, and I think it's a question which is in the mind of everybody. So all in all, I think there's been in the UK only about 60 new banks, and there's not space for everybody. That's the first thing that I would say. So what will actually happen, nobody really knows, but my personal view is that there's going to be a few selected banks which will become successful. So let's say, for example, I know lots of examples from the UK, but let's say Monzo, which is a bank that has the most publicity, maybe they manage to grow themselves into securing some market share. Right now, their market share is minimal. Yeah, it's 0.0001, but they might get a market share of, let's say, 5%, which will allow them to survive. For most of the other banks, they won't be able to do that. In terms of can they actually move the incumbents? Can they move the bigger banks? I don't think that they will be able to deal with the biggest banks, because the biggest banks are investing quite heavily in their own proposition, and they are prepared to buy a disruptor in case they need to. So I think some of the companies will be able to survive, some others will be acquired, and banks, some of them will not do well and they might need to close, but most of the strongest banks, they will be able to adapt. However, the industry is likely to offer a lot less opportunities in terms of margin. I think the margin opportunities will come out of looking outside of banking. So what we're looking at is a new economy, so a connected economy where everything is actually connected. So the bank might be losing money on your interest rate, so they might need to offer you a better interest rate in order to give you a loan. But maybe they will get some money out of reducing your energy bill, because all of the information will be connected.
It seems that fintechs provide a lot of benefits for customers, cheaper lending, etc. But are there any disadvantages or risks coming from fintechs? If yes, which?
I say yes, and as I was talking on one of my last slides, there's an opportunity to fall in the hand of fraudsters. Yeah, so people are really concerned about the safety of their money, and it's correct to be worried about it. So, for example, when we get into open banking and you're sharing your financial transactions with third parties that might be very small companies, which might have 5 people, and then this company might be able to take advantage of that. So I'd say the biggest disadvantage of a connected economy is the potential that we're giving by supplying our information or supplying our consent to share our information to get it hacked. So we need to make sure that we grow slowly. We need to have the appropriate security measures in order to be able to be happy and be comfortable with a new environment.
And one last question. For banks that create their own fintech solutions, is the trend to keep platforms in-house, or do they create spin-offs?
Can you repeat that last bit? It got cut off in the middle. Wendy.
For banks that create their own fintech solutions, is the trend to keep platforms in-house, or do they create spin-offs?
What I've seen so far is that they keep them in-house. In some cases, you will see that banks invest in solutions, so maybe they will take ownership of a technology company, and they will not want to limit the scope of this company to just themselves. But generally, what I see is that banks, they are quite complex systems in which integrating applications is really difficult. So when they are creating a solution, they're mostly thinking about their own solution, unless you have a holding company which might be investing into IT. But for me, when a big bank is investing in fintech, in creating a fintech solution, they're looking at their own industry rather than becoming an IT provider.
All right. Thank you very much, Agustin, for your expertise today. And thank you to all that attended. A recording of this will be in our webinar archives within 48 hours. Thank you so much and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.